Hoops Lounge, with a show with more upside than Hassan Whiteside. My name is Marc Griffin, aka Montreal Marc. I'm joined by my partner in crime, Phil Boileau, Sporting Phil. Today we are talking Miami Heat and specifically Chris Bosh, who rather suddenly is out for the season, but hopefully returning to basketball next year. Blood clot in his lung discovered basically around All-Star Weekend. Phil, Bosh came out to the Miami Heat game last night and gave a heartfelt thank you to all the Heat fan out there. The stadium wasn't exactly full, but they've been really supportive of him, and fans from Toronto and around the basketball community have all been saying, wishing him well. What's the next step for Chris Bosh?
I mean, this next step is really going to be predicated upon medical clearance if you can get it at some point. But you know what? Your point before to the honor he was getting from the different cities just kind of speaks to the character of the guy and the player he has been. I've always felt that Chris Bosh, as much as he's gotten some credit for being, part of the big three in Miami and winning the championships, I feel he's always been kind of an unsung hero. In Toronto, gaudy numbers. In Miami, he was arguably he was their second best player for a lot of those games behind LeBron James. And he's just that guy who, he went from being the star in Toronto to taking a third wheel in Miami, and no one really gave him enough credit. He expanded his game from attacking the rim to being essentially a stretch 3, a stretch 4, a stretch 5 in situations. So I think if this can come clear, this is a very touchy situation because a lot of things can reoccur. We obviously wish him the best of health, but this is a situation where it has to be monitored closely. But if he comes back, he's still, at this point, he'd be 30, 31. He's still got a few good years left. I think considering the rest of that Miami squad, they could be poised for a couple. Like, I was thinking before he went down with the addition of Goran Dragic, I know one of your favorite players, and the person you mentioned before, Hassan Whiteside, that starting 5 would have been almost the most dominant in the entire league. There could be arguments, Golden State, Memphis or such, but I just think this was a tragedy on so many ends, but I think he'll be back. I think Bosh will be back.
I think what we should do on show is do the Rodney Dangerfields of the league, the guys who get no respect, because he's certainly on there. Since leaving Toronto, he's definitely had to take that role back, dial it back a bit, and I think he's kind of at this stage in his career where he has to dial it back up again. I want to read a quote for you. It's from Chris himself from the other day. He did a press after that game, and he said, I was in a lot of pain, and it got to the point where I had to swallow my pride a little bit. It's kind of like an athlete thing where we're always trying to go be superheroes out there all the time. Now, I've spoken about this with Derrick Rose and other players. There's this kind of mentality where you do have to be superhuman. You have to be a Marvel superhero. And you know what? He was having quote-unquote back pain, and he wasn't feeling right. His wife made him go to the doctor. I hate to bring this up, but Jerome Kersey died a couple weeks ago from the same medical condition. He could actually not be with us anymore. It just speaks to the world and the fact that he had to kind of resign himself and say, you know what, I'm going to swallow my pride and go to the hospital.
Yeah, no, exactly. This exact situation parallels itself on many sports. We look at football, we look at rugby, soccer, all these players playing through injuries and playing through pain. Now, there's always that bit that says, you do it for the team, you take one for the team. This is, in the playoffs come the guts and glory, and this is part of the season. But you know what? At a certain level, you do have to take care of your body, and I think he did it the intelligent way. Who's to say what would have happened, knock on wood, had he not done that? And we'd only found this out weeks or months later. So very thankful that happened. But you know what? These people are human beings, and I think we expect them because they're being paid $20 million or whatever he got in terms of the contract. That they should be superheroes. They should be playing every game. They should be playing 45 minutes a game. They should bring back Allen Iverson type durability. But the reality is that they're human beings with issues at home and physically. And Chris Bosh, I think he's going to go down as one of those, as you said. I think the Rodney Dangerfield title is actually perfect. He's going to go down as one of those guys that people kind of look past because while he was putting up big numbers, he was in Toronto, so it was kind of, in Canada. And before these last couple of years, Toronto wasn't exactly an ideal destination. And then Miami behind King James, behind Dwayne Wade. You know what? It'll be interesting to see someone potentially get into the Hall of Fame that people have to think back and really scratch their heads unjustly for why he's there.
Well, just to rewind a little bit, when we did our preseason picks this year, it's on tape. You called Bosh the MVP. Outside of this, this medical happening, do you have any regrets about that? Because early on, he was putting up some pretty staggering numbers.
Well, you know what? It just came down to basic numbers for me. I looked at it. LeBron James was gone. That scoring load was to be had. And Chris Bosh has proven that he had done it in the past in Toronto. And I look at Dwayne Wade. I'm like, well, your numbers are going to go up. But really, you're a little bit older, a little more banged up. So chances are Bosh becomes that alpha dog, especially with the new contract he signed to keep him in town away from the Houston Rockets. But you know what? That team has so many nice pieces. Not overly surprised. But I still think it could have been sneaky, although had that team all been healthy, having all those stars in one team, can you really pull an MVP out of a team with Dragic, Wade, Deng, Whiteside, who's potential MIP? I think it would have been a long shot. So I think I'll lick my wounds when I've admitted defeat, and I'll jump on my new MVP bandwagon that I've been on the last couple weeks of Russ Westbrook.
One point I wanted to mention is when we think about the play in the NBA Finals 2 years ago where Ray Allen hit that shot in the corner for the winning Game 6, we talk about that three. We talk about Popovich taking Tim Duncan out. But we don't talk about the wherewithal from Chris Bosh to grab the board, instantaneously see where Ray Allen is, and hit him with a perfect pass for the assist for the win. I think that defines his career. Really, I mean, he pulled something off. He basically won that game, and he's not spoken about. Like you said, he is that Dangerfield, and I think that's kind of really going to be a big legacy of his career. Now looking forward, I'll throw you with this one last question. Goran Dragic, he needs to be signed by Miami in the summer. I know Pat Riley's going to put the rings out on the table like he did for LeBron. What's it going to take with Bosh and everyone else to kind of keep this core together? I mean, they're starting to age, absolutely, and keep things going in Miami.
Well, you'd have to, look at Whiteside's contract and see if he's up for renewal, because if he is, he's going to be in the $8 to $10 million range for sure with his production now. Also, what you have to look out for a bit is Goran Dragic's want to be an LA Laker. He has expressed interest in going to LA in the offseason. Although I think he might tone that back a bit because he has expressed regret recently about how he spoke about the Phoenix Suns organization. And I think those rings will have a little bit more impact. There's not the draw to go home like there was with LeBron James, and I think Dragic will realize that with an aging Dwayne Wade, the backcourt will be his, and that backcourt is working really well. I mean, if Bosh can come back, that front court, I'll take them over almost any team in the East. So I think there's a strong chance he re-signs for the simple purpose that I think at this point of his career, heading into his prime, he wants rings, and this is the best situation for him right now.
Yeah, and I don't think it's a bad thing playing underneath Spoelstra and Pat Riley as well, and living off of Miami Beach. To wrap up today, tell you fans, always check out our website, hoopslounge.com, facebook.com/hoopslounge. Find us on Twitter. It's @hoopslounge, and you can look at the bottom of the screen on YouTube. It has all of our Twitter handles. Find us there. Phil, thanks again for being on the show. And as always, see us in the lounge.